It is just too catchy, that. It's just too catchy.
It is. So today there is no show. I was talking with my guest before we started the show and just decided that we're going to dance for an hour and a half. Though that's going to be the show. Like two white dude trying to dance. I know. I think like I don't want to talk for you, Jim, but like I look bad when I try to dance. Anyway, welcome to the DevRel show. Thanks for being with us. It's awesome. It's already episode 7. I feel like I started that show yesterday, and I guess it's going well when you are having fun and talking with nice people. So today I have another guest that we've been following each other, I think, on social media for a while, but we've never met in person. I think we've never even chat like on a Zoom call or whatever. So it's the first time. We didn't even have like a pre-chat before the show, except like 5-10 minutes before starting that show. So we don't know each other that much, which is amazing. So Jim, who are you? I want to know.
Who am I? Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Fred. Yeah, really excited to be here. Yeah, who am I? I'm a Star Wars nut. I will start with that one. And yes, this background is real. That's what a lot of people always ask: is it virtual? No.
I need to say it's amazing. Like I know it was real because like you can tell the difference like when this is like a virtual background, but that's an amazing collection. That's amazing. Are those all Legos? Lego?
All Legos. Yeah.
Wow.
There's like more shelves of this. I've got more Legos over there. So yeah, I am Jim the Star Wars nut. But no, I guess DevRel is probably more of a relevant topic than Star Wars Lego. So I'm currently a principal developer advocate for a small startup called liblab. So been doing DevRel for almost 6 years now. Almost 6 years. Started off at Microsoft as DevRel. Before that, before I even started in DevRel, I was doing DevRel for free. So I think it was kind of like a lot of us in the DevRel space. We started off doing community work. So I started off doing community, moved into DevRel, and been happily there ever since.
Yeah. As you said, I think it's like how most of us started. We started to do like things that a developer advocate does day to day, but we're just doing that for fun, for free, because it's kind of like a passion. And at some point we just realized that like, hey, we could be paid for that, or someone told us like, hey, you know what, like I can pay you to do that, which is pretty awesome. Talking about that, one thing with developer relation that is, or I would say probably every role, like titles, like the seniority of titles can be different from one company to the other. So what does that mean for you in terms of like being a principal developer advocate? Like what's your role? What do you do?
So I actually posted a meme about this a while ago. I don't know if you ever watched The Lion King. And there's a scene in The Lion King where Mufasa is sitting there with Simba and looking out across, everything the light touches is my kingdom. So my job in DevRel is everything the light touches is my job description. So the company I work for, liblab, it's a very small startup, and I am literally the entire developer relations team. So what I do is I am responsible for ensuring that we are in a place where we can provide a product to developers that is good, effective, well documented, usable, and then also make driving the kind of content awareness. So my job literally touches everything from I write the docs. We have a new feature, send it to Jim to write the docs. When we do events, it pretty much falls on me 100% to do everything across the entire event, from to promoting on social that we're doing it, designing the booth, ordering swag, and then working with the team to build the demos in place, turning up at the event, on the booth, giving the talk, all that kind of stuff. I own all our social channels. And then it kind of internally, I'm responsible for a lot of developer experience. So I'm that voice of the developer going back to the company. And so when we have a new feature, it's like, hey, I've built this thing. It's like, cool. Okay, let's work through this. How would a developer do this? What's the right experience for a developer? So I kind of touch everything from the product side of things for managing that developer experience to the marketing side of things, where it's how do we promote this on social, to content creation, literally some of everything. And kind of the reason it's kind of that principal level role is literally because I am the team. I have to do everything. So I am responsible for talking across the company as a whole. I'm not just creating content. I'm not just giving talks. I am thinking about the company as the bigger picture and how do we drive that good experience for developers. I mean, we are a company that make developer tools. Our customers are developers. The people who pay for our tools are engineering managers, CTOs, the more senior folks. So I'm kind of thinking about how do you make sure we have a great experience for everybody, and then just pushing across the engineering team, our website, our documentation, our management, all that kind of stuff to make sure we build that experience. So I'm not running a team. I'm not like a VP of developer operations running a leading team, but I'm the person there with the experience, and I'm influencing the company as a whole. So that's why it's a much more senior level role.
Makes sense. And you know what, that's a really good description about what I do, because that's the same thing for me. I'm in a startup. I'm a principal developer advocate, and it's exactly like everything DevRel is my responsibility, like crusting functional program, and like everything I need to be successful, it's under my umbrella. So I like that. And one of the things you said that like I want to come back, because people that maybe not aware too much about like developer relation, or didn't never really work with the developer advocate, think that like it's kind of like a cool title for a marketing person. But you said something super important where like you're the voice of developers. So it's not just about content creation. It's not just about quote unquote marketing or being the voice of the company to the developer. It's also the other way around. It's being the voice of developers. So you need to bring the feedback to the product team. You need to bring the feedback to the company. You need to as you said, be the voice of developer internally. And I feel like it's a huge important part of a role that sometimes is set aside for different reasons, but it's in the title. We're developer advocate. We advocate for developers. We advocate to developers, but we advocate for developers. So love that you said that.
Yeah, when I first started as a developer advocate, I was working for Microsoft, and I ran a podcast just interviewing the various people across the team. And I remember actually having a really good discussion about this with a guy called Asim, who's now part of the Green Software Foundation and kind of pushes green software. And literally, the conclusion we came to is we work for developers. We don't work for, at the time it was Microsoft. We work for the developers. So although Microsoft pays our salary, we work for developers, because that is fundamentally who our stakeholders are, who our customers are. And sometimes that is, we work for developers by giving them the information they need. Yeah, I'm a developer. I'm trying to use your product. How do I use it? Here, let me help you. And sometimes it is that voice of developer. I'm a developer. Your product sucks because of this. Help me fix it. And then we have to obviously not just take that message of your product sucks back to the product team. We have to actually understand the user. Yeah, you can't go, it sucks, fix it. We kind of have to understand why there's a problem there. What are the barriers there? And then think about how we can drive that change in the company. And kind of one of the really interesting things comparing like the Microsofts of the world, 240,000 people, enormous company, with the liblabs of the world, which is 10,000 times smaller, is the amount of influence you can have on the product decision. It's very hard when you're a developer advocate in a large company to really change the direction of a product that's got hundreds of people working on it, and developers don't like this. That means there's 20 people in the program management, product management, developer team who are going to be upset about this, who don't want to make changes and look bad. Whereas in a smaller company, I can literally go to the engineer and say, here's the feedback we got. Can we fix this? Yeah, cool. Thanks for that. Or even I can go and fix it. There's been a number of times where I don't delve too much into the inner workings of the product, but I think about the kind of the experience a user has. So we have a CLI. We need to improve something in the CLI because it's not helpful for developers. I'll just jump in and do it. Yeah, I can make the code change. When in a larger company, there's zero opportunity for me to actually go in there and fix it. Whereas a smaller company, I can. So yeah, I definitely found, I moved to liblab back in July, and I've definitely found that the impact I can have in a smaller company is so much higher because the ship can be steered much quicker. Whereas the larger companies, you have a team of 150 developer advocates, and if you're lucky, maybe they can steer the direction of a beta product before it gets released.
Yeah, it's not, and I'm interested to learn more about your experience with Microsoft. I used to be a developer advocate of Microsoft too, but now 12 years ago, maybe, when it was a different Microsoft. Let's say it was not a Microsoft as open as it is now. It was like pre-Satya, and as much as I love Ballmer's passion about Microsoft,
developers.
I mean, funny story. I wanted to at some point I was at Microsoft Canada, and it was really like working by country before. I think they changed it a little bit in like a couple of years after, but like we had like team that were focusing on countries instead of like just focusing on specific product or specific type of audience. We're doing kind of like having a mix of all those things, and we're doing Tech Days, which was a conference that like was done in US and different countries, but also we had like Tech Days Canada, and I was doing the keynote in Montreal because I was like, hey, I was the only one on the team who was speaking French, and I was like new on the team, so they wanted my face to be out there so people know that I exist. And I was like, you know what, I want to start that keynote with like running in the room and like saying like developers. And it was like, I don't know, maybe a year or two after Ballmer said that. And like, surely enough, my boss was like, nope, we're not going to do that. And I'm like, no, I'm not laughing about it. Like obviously it can be a little bit laughable the way he did it, and like, he was sweating so much, and like, yeah, maybe people find this funny. But I was like, one thing that I know for sure is that he truly believed what he was saying, and he was really into like making developers' life easier. Maybe not always like using the right tools to do that or the right way to do that, but he was really passionate about. So unfortunately, I was not about to do that, which I thought would have been just awesome, and people would have found it probably nice. But anyway, so I used to work at Microsoft, and you touched base a little bit about that, the difference between big company and small company, but like, how did you adapt? Because there's a lot, like, as you said, you can have a bigger impact in smaller company. It's easier to work with the developer teams because you can have a voice, you can even participate. But there's also benefits in being like in the larger entity or larger company. So how was the change from like going from something that is so freaking huge to like a small startup?
I mean, it was a good change. It was a good change. I mean, literally, the reason I wanted to leave, well, one of the reasons I wanted to leave Microsoft, and there are many other reasons which I'll gladly share with you over a beverage rather than over a podcast. But one of the many reasons was that I wanted to be able to have more impact, and with a big company, you can't do that. So when I first started Microsoft, they had just founded a developer relations team. So in the past, they've been through a number of iterations of, tech evangelists, and they had was it DX, developer experience teams, and then they decided to start this new developer relations team. And they took on board a guy called Jeff Sandquist, who used to run DevRel at Twitter, and said, right, build this new team, get this new focus, and kind of try and do that authentic relationship with developers. And so I joined probably 6 months after that team kicked off. And it was small, it was scrappy, and it was kind of left alone. So it was very much outside of that machine that is Microsoft. We had a lot more freedoms to do things. We had, we didn't need to report back so much, didn't have so many OKRs and metrics, and it meant we could experiment, we could move quickly, we could try things. And that was great. Team was fantastic, a lot of good people, and of course it achieved success. There was various, you DevRel folks are just jumping on planes all the time, going on vacation. It's like, yes, I jump on a plane, I get off the plane, I go to a hotel, I then go and give a talk, and then another talk, and then I get back on a plane. I'm not doing all these, I'm not on vacation, I'm working here, and I'm sitting in the middle seat of a plane while I do it. But it worked really, really well, and the team was really effective. We could kind of implement a lot of change. And in particular, I was working on technology called Xamarin, which was .NET for mobile devices. And I knew the folks at Xamarin really well. It was kind of a company that got bought by Microsoft. And again, you could kind of influence some of the product decisions that were involved there because it's kind of a smaller part that's being integrated. But then just over time, it just gets embedded into the whole that is Microsoft. And then COVID happens, and it's suddenly, how do we repivot everything from the in-person to the virtual? And then as we're doing things virtually, you can reach more people, but is there quality reach? And then let's think about the metrics we have to track. And then the whole thing started to slow down quite a lot. And kind of, it definitely got to an interesting point after the big layoffs, because as we all know, the start of the year was a brutal time in the tech industry, and hasn't let up. It's been fairly brutal in the last couple of weeks as well.
It is.
But when you're part of a large company, when these things happen, things really tighten up. It's like, how do we measure everything? How do we not do anything that could be considered wrong? How do I make myself look good, but then not risk being laid off because I don't want to be part of the 10,000 people? And just things got very corporate, very heavy, and and just one thing that's great about DevRel is we want to do things. I've got an idea, I'm going to do it now, and I have to do it now because a lot of us are potentially neurodiverse, and we have this is the most important thing in the world. I want to build this thing, and you can't necessarily do that in a big company. It's like, this is the project I want to work on, and it is another version of something that has worked really well and thousands of people loved it. Can I do it, please? Oh, let's write a document about this, and then let's run this up the chain. And so, but by the time I've done the document, I'm bored with the idea, and I could have released it. And so it's that very much slowed down. And so I moved to liblab, small company. I'm chatting with the CEO on a daily basis just because we work together, and so you've got reach across the entire company. You're working with everyone from CEO right down to the most junior engineers. It's great. And I was studying with my boss of, I want to do this. Do I need to write a document? And he was like, why haven't you just done it? Just do it. Shut up. Don't write a document. Just do it.
Why are you asking me for that?
In the time it took you to ask me, you could have done it. Just do it. And so that, I think, is the biggest change, is that freedom to run an experiment. And we kind of had that a little bit at the start of Microsoft, because we were very much discovering what this developer advocacy thing, what did it look like? What was it? How's it going to work? So it's kind of gone back to that. I kind of got that refreshing feel that I had when I first started as a developer advocate, that I can experiment with an idea. I can try things. I think that's what's so nice about it is, I joined when things are moving really quickly, things slowed down, and now I'm back to moving quickly.
Yeah, I hear you. I got a similar experience at Microsoft too. That was the biggest company I worked for. I still work for like other large entity as a developer advocate, but Microsoft was like the biggest one. And it started, but in my case, there was like different manager with different management styles. So it started where we're a little more free about doing what you said, like, we need to do stuff, let's do it, let's see, and let's evaluate after. If we have like the impact that we wanted, we can move to other stuff. But at some point, Microsoft became really intense with like KPIs and a new manager too. And especially in my case, like, the reasons I left was mostly because we're so obsessed with KPI that we were bringing like really bad quality application to like the marketplace just to hit our numbers, when it was like, hey, it's not something I want to do. And the second part of it is that my focus, they hired me because I was not a Microsoft person. So my focus was open source, open data interoperability. During a time where Microsoft was not really playing well with others, I was trying to change things, and I had a lot of support from my first manager. Didn't have the same support coming from the next manager and like the chain of command that were like, hey, we're not an open source company. So it was before Satya was there. So I was like, yeah, I don't feel like I can have the impact that I want. So that's another thing that people need to understand too, I guess. And I can say that with confidence is that even if you love your job, even if you work in a big or small company, in my case, like I've seen this a couple of times, a manager can make or break your job, and a change, like everything can go well. And you may be in a place where like you're in a smaller company, there's not those big layoffs like in a big company, but like, hey, your manager decided to move to another project, move to another company, you get a new one, it doesn't work, you're screwed. You're kind of screwed. So anyway, I'm going in all direction now. It's just like made me think about a couple of things, but live through those.
Yeah. I know what you mean about managers, and Microsoft as well has this love of reorganization. So, the good thing is, if you don't like your manager, in 6 months you'll get a new one. You know, the bad thing is if you like your manager, in 6 months you get a new one. I mean, it did get a bit silly. In my last year, I had 4 managers in 4 months. So at the start of this year, went through 4 managers because they just reorganized everything. And it's like, this is okay, not good. And then it's also as well of like, oh, you're now on this team, so you now have to learn this thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I did a lot of Internet of Things work, and suddenly like, oh, you're gonna do AI now. Am I? How can I have an authentic conversation about AI when I know nothing about it and I don't want to do this? You know, this that kind of stuff doesn't make sense. So you kind of get people who just go, I will work on whatever I'm told to work on. It's like, okay, you do you. But you know, if we're trying to be authentic and have an authentic engagement with people, we have to love what we do. And
super important.
When I first started, I was all about Xamarin. I'd written a book on it. I was used to be a Xamarin MVP beforehand. I was used to run a Xamarin meetup. It's like, yes, we'll pay you to do that. So, you know, what I did for fun, they'll pay me to do. Hell yeah, already well known in the community. I pivoted because it's something I was interested in. And again, built up that respect in the community and people knew who I was. And then, of course, someone goes, oh, now you're doing this now. So, well, okay. How do I engage with my communities? Because they don't care about this. They care about the old thing I was doing. So, yeah. But as you say, it's all about hitting the numbers, and you get, oh, we need people to do this because this is the big thing. You know, always given 10 billion to OpenAI, therefore you all have to do AI now. Thanks.
I know, and you said it like you need to be passionate about what you do. I mean, there's a part of me that believe like a job is a job, like we do it because we need money for a living, but there's also a part of me where I feel we're privileged enough, at least people working in tech, that like it could also be a passion. I don't think it needs to, but like when it comes to developer relation, I think you need to have a little bit of passion, because you're talking about a project, a product, a service to people. And yes, as you said, you need to be honest with people. So that's the first thing. Like if you don't believe in the product, how can you talk about that product? How can you share the benefits of using that product or service to other people? And I don't think it's working on the long run. Like if you're bullshitting people about your love for that, if you're not passionate about, I don't think that will translate well with the relationship you're building with people, because it's all about people. Like we have a tech job, but our tech job is all about people. And you know what? For people, it's about creating a relationship. So I feel like that's super important. And sorry, Chuck, I totally forgot. I think you said, so first, Chuck Tomasi, thanks for joining us. You said never shy away from showing your passion on stage. I guess you were referring to my Balmor thing. I was starting the job. My manager said kind of like no. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. The older, more bold Fred would say like, fuck that shit. If I want to do that, I'm going to do it. But, you know, I didn't know. Oh my God. And I want to say hi to Kevin Kelly. Probably remember you a couple of things if you were there when I was talking about my Microsoft time. Kevin, super involved in the community in Toronto and Canada. And it was one of, when I was saying like we need to build relationship, part of building relationship, sort of is also, let's be honest, trying to identify influencers and like work with them, try to find a win-win situation. And Kevin was one of these influencers that really helped me like do my jobs. I hope I help him a little bit with his community, the meetups. So yeah. And by the way, that Star Wars collection, I agree, that is amazing. There's a lot of money behind you, because I didn't buy Lego since forever. And I think the last time actually I don't know if it was Seattle, but I went to the Lego store and I was like, shit. Like I did not remember those were that expensive. Or maybe like when I was a kid, it's because we didn't have like those team special, like big, like Lego that are more for adult than kids. But damn, like that's expensive.
Oh yeah. So the Millennium Falcon here, this isn't the current Ultimate Collector series, because the current Ultimate Collector series is like $850. No. This is the original collector's edition from back in 2005, I think it came out. My wife paid £300 for that, which is about $400 US. If this was still in its box, sealed, that would be worth about $10,000 US.
That
Yeah.
is
Because people
crazy.
desperate, because there's a massive kind of secondhand market for the Lego sets that people want. I mean, they stopped the Super Star Destroyer. That was like $800. They stopped making that a few months ago, and that's now worth $1,600 brand new, and the price will only go up because collectors want them. So it's kind of scary that the most valuable thing I have, ignoring my car, the most cash valuable thing is probably that Millennium Falcon. Literally, if I needed to make money in a hurry, none of this sell my wife's jewelry or anything like that. It's that Millennium Falcon is probably the most valuable thing I have on a secondhand market in my
It
house.
is what the market wants. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That is the sphere that I don't understand, like collectors and like how the things are priced and all those things. So we're getting in a total different direction from like Devra right now. But I think Devra is all about passion, and you clearly have a passion for Star Wars and Lego. So that's
Uh-huh.
amazing. That's amazing. So yeah, no, that's great. Want to say hi to
Hey,
Juan
Wampa, hello.
Pablo Flores Cortes.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I didn't screw up your name. I tried to say it with a nice accent, but yeah, thanks for joining the show. And Kevin, who is heading, oh, that's so nice, Kevin. I think it was just after I said that, like, hopefully, I was able also to help the community. So yeah, thanks for that, Kelly and Kevin, Kelly. And yes, there is a huge crossover between devs and Legos. I don't know why I struggle to say that word in English, like Legos. I always try to say it like in French with an English accent, and I screw it up. But yeah, actually, so many people are fans, and the only reasons that I didn't start like doing like what I call adult Lego is that I didn't stop. And I'm not a minimalist, but I try not to have too many things at my place, and I would just go crazy because when I'm passionate about something, I'm passionate about. So I would spend so much money on that. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, like, I know what I'm like, the floodgate that I would open if I do that. So I'm like, I restraining myself not to do it, because every time I pass through like in front of like a kid's store or something, and I'm like, I want to go to see the Lego section, I'm like, oh my god, it is amazing. Like, oh, there is like Back to the Future DeLorean, or like, oh, there's Star Wars things, and there's like everything super like amazing. I saw the big, I don't know if you have like the big R2D2,
The big
which is like,
R2D2, which you can't see right now, but that's about there.
I was
Yeah.
pretty sure you had it. I was like, I want that thing. That's amazing. But again, if I start, there's no hand to it. So
Yeah, the problem is
Kevin
definitely
saying,
where do you put them? So yeah, I built these shelves to host my Lego. All 4 shelves are full. I've got the Republic Cruiser, and this thing is like a meter long, enormous thing that's just randomly sitting on a shelf over there, not sitting properly because it doesn't fit. I've got the Razor Crest just up on a shelf over there. I literally need to buy more shelves for my Lego, and the problem is I've got so much of it. Actually, someone reached out the other day and say, oh yeah, we want to buy some Lego, and yeah, which set do you want? So I've got them all. Literally, of all the sets you can buy brand new now that I want, I've got them. So I've actually set up an Amazon wish list of the secondhand Lego that but the discontinued Lego that I want, and some of the prices are through the roof. I mean, I think literally if I walked into a Lego store now, there's only one set I actually want that you can physically still buy now, and that's the $850 AT-AT. And the reason I haven't bought it yet is because I've got the smaller AT-AT just there. I'm just about to see the legs there. So so even the Mandalorian, yes, the Razor Crest I've got on a shelf over there. I've got the Mandalorian helmet. I've got Grogu up there.
oh my
So,
god,
yeah,
that's amazing.
I think
That's amazing.
it's so meditative. So I find it in the tech world, your brain's all over the place, especially in DevRel. Everything the light touches is my job description. So we're constantly hopping around between tasks. I think you were talking about this with David on one of your earlier shows.
Yeah.
We're constantly, I need to write docs. While the docs are building, I need to go and make this code change. And while then this is happening, I need to go and talk to the team over here. And then I need to do this, I need to do this. And you kind of, during the day, your brain is everywhere. And sometimes it's good to kind of meditate. And I find Lego is a really good meditation. I'll buy a big Lego set. It takes me 15, 20 hours to build it if it's one of the really big ones. And while I'm building it, I have a book open and it says, take these pieces, put it here. And so I normally put some relaxing music on and I just sit there, take the pieces, put it here, take the pieces, put it here, take the pieces, put it here. And I'm not thinking. My mind can wander where it likes to. You know, some meditative practices are let your mind wander.
Yeah.
The mind wanders and then it kind of comes back to, you know, occasionally your mind has to come back to, oh, where's the piece I'm looking for? But otherwise it's put the piece. And you come out so relaxed. It's so nice. And then you get something beautiful at the end of it. So you spend, you know, 10, 15 hours, whatever on this thing. You may split that over a couple of weeks, you know, every day, spend an hour, just do a couple of bags, just put the Lego in, put the Lego in, unwinds the brain. And then at the end of that, you've got a thing of beauty.
That's you know what? I never thought about this. I just saw like and maybe it was for my own good, but just saw the negative part of it. I'm like, I'm gonna spend too much money. I'm like, I'm not gonna have space to do that. I'm gonna have to buy shelves and everything. But like, yeah, like obviously, like I know I would have fun to do that, but I never thought that like that could be a way to kind of like turn off my brain and do something that I can enjoy, that is relaxing, that is not watching TV. Because one of the thing with developer relations that it's a job where we're always on. Like it's a people-centric job. We go to conferences, we go to meetup. Like it's not done after we gave a talk. If we gave a talk, like we talk to people during the break, we talk to people when we're not going to a session, with other people not going to a session. We need to go to the party after, because like this is where you connect with people, even if you don't want to. Because trust me, like at the beginning, I was like the happiest person. I was like, oh my God, like conference party. And it's my job to go there. Like I can even pay drinks to people or whatever, and pay food or bring people to food. That was amazing. But after doing that for a couple of years, sometimes the party, I'm like, no, you know what? Like maybe I'm just getting older. I don't know. But I'm like, yeah, I just want to go back to my hotel room. Don't talk to anybody. Like I'm not even going to go out to order food. I'm going to order food to my hotel room because I don't want to talk to people. So having a passion that helps you escape like that, it's pretty amazing. So yeah, thanks for sharing. Actually, I really love that because you know, that show, yes, it's about DevRel, but as I told you before we started to record the show, I was like, that's my show. That's going to be whatever I want it to be. And talking about Lego right now is what I wanted to say, what I wanted to do. So that's amazing. And Jairo, thanks for joining. Jairo is a colleague, amazing developer, working at QFirst. So thanks for joining. And Kevin, sorry, I missed that comment, but you were saying that, yeah, man, we didn't have those around back in the 90s neither. So just the city castle and probably space stuff compared to now, whereas now they have franchise tied to Lego. So this is probably the huge difference. Like it's why we have like the generic type of Legos most of the time, and now they have like specific franchise Lego, which probably why the price is just like so much expensive than it used to. But again,
the licensing fee for Star Wars or Harry Potter or whatever.
Yeah. The license fee is good. I saw something, and just before I jump on that, the one was saying like Lego is the new drug to disconnect from work and relax. And you know what? That's a good drug. So please do that. And,
yeah.
Kevin
do Legos,
saying,
not
like,
cocaine, you know.
Yeah. Do Legos, not cocaine. That could be a good like government like when they do promotion, like no drugs saying or something, like do Legos, do not don't do cocaine. And yeah, true, Kevin, we had the Titanic. And Technic. Okay, I tell you what you said we had the Titanic because I think we had that because the movie, when the first movie got out with Leonardo DiCaprio, was so popular that we had it to Lego. But I didn't read I didn't read well. My God, I'm tired. We had the Technic. I never really played with those that much. I was more like a Lego person, and I gave like a huge suitcase to friends' kids at some point when I was like, I don't want to sell those. I don't want to just give them away to nobody. I just want to give them to like someone who's going to enjoy them because like it's Lego. Like it's for me, like that's a big piece of like when I was a kid. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
so on that note,
playing with Lego, that was the toy. It was just you use your imagination to build all these different things. And as Kevin was saying, we didn't have those sets back in the day. You'd just buy a big box of Legos and just you would do that. But yeah, my kid, I've got a 10-year-old, and so they bought a lot of Lego sets, but they have a massive pile of Lego. I mean, even yesterday they had a friend come round after school, and they just sat there with a big box of Lego, and they were just building things together, interesting, inventive things. It's just amazing watching what someone can create with a bit of imagination.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. The other thing I've seen about Legos is there's that the people like amateur like creating instruction about building things that Lego did not create it themselves. I don't know how to say that, but like you cannot buy a box with like those pieces and instruction at a Lego store, but like it's people at their own place that decided to like create the manual to how to do like a specific whatever they imagine that it could do.
Yeah, you can just buy those. You just like you spend like $40, and here's a guide of the to build a particular thing that Lego doesn't make. And then there's companies like, I think it's Bricklink, where you can just go and order, and they sell assorted Lego. Actually, Bricklink even do that. So you can, if there's a set that's discontinued, they will package all the bits up for you and ship it to you. So yeah, you don't want to spend $1,600 on the Super Star Destroyer. You can buy it for like $1,000, but you don't get the minifigs and the stickers and the things that are specific to the set, but you get all the other stuff, so you can kind of build as a close replica of it. So there's kind of this whole amazing world out there of people who've just gone, yeah, I like this thing out, and you can buy the instructions, you can order the parts, and you can build Lego whatever.
Yeah, now I'm starting to not like this show, because I guess like when we're gonna finish the live stream, I'm gonna go online and maybe order a couple of like Lego boxes. God,
you know you're gonna do it. I don't want to be like your pusher. As Wampa was saying, Lego's the new drug. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not your pusher here, but say no to drugs, kids, but don't say no to Lego.
Yeah. That's amazing. Never thought about unwinding with Lego during bills and whatnot. That's true. That's true. And actually, that's a good thing. Like, when you need to wait for something on a computer, like you have like a app building or something, please, like go take a walk, do something, go have a glass of water. Anyway, we are way far away from DevRel. And again, I'm totally fine with that. But you prepare a demo, and I really want people to like learn a little more about liblab and what is the company doing, what's your product, because the second part of the show, if you're new to the show, welcome. The first part is really talking about DevRel, or now Lego, and the second part is really, okay, let's learn something like that makes sense for developer or DevOps or GitOps people or developer relation folks, that can be useful also in our day-to-day job, like something more tangible on a technical side of things. So today you're gonna show us a little more about your product, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're gonna show us how to convert API to SDKs really quickly.
Yep, that's what we're gonna do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so liblab, we are SDKs as a service. So you have an API, build your API. You've got like whether it's you're a SaaS company, you've got a public API for people to use, or whether it's microservices. You're in a big enterprise, you've got a million microservices everywhere. They've all got APIs, and when you write code against APIs, it's not always nice. So I'm just going to share my screen here. And we're going to get the lovely infinity when that pops up. Cool. So you should now avoid that. So is my screen up? Where are we? Yay, we are. Cool. So I've got an API here, for example. This is my llama store. So liblab is all about llamas. In fact,
that's awesome.
There's our logo. We were at a tech conference the other month. We actually had a llama mascot in a full llama costume. It's great. We love our llamas.
You wore that, or you wear the mascot?
I didn't wear the mascot, no. And I'm not saying it was Taylor Swift in the mascot costume, but no one has ever seen our mascot and Taylor Swift in the same room.
So who knows?
Who knows?
That's a possibility.
So yeah, so I've got this llama store. It's got an API. This is kind of the normal thing you would get. I've got endpoints to get llamas, get llama pictures, register users, get API tokens. This is a fairly normal thing you might get on a SaaS platform or internally in a microservice. And obviously, if I'm accessing this API, I'm doing a lot of magic strings. I'm doing a lot of JSON and all that kind of stuff. So I don't have a compiler helping me. I don't have an interpreter helping me. I don't have a linter helping me. So in this case, if I want to make some Python code to create a user, I've got this magic string of my URL, localhost where it's running /user, and I have to build this JSON document and pass this round. And this is error prone. If I spell this wrong, if I do email, for example, I'm not going to know until runtime. So kind of the biggest developer experience hole that you have with APIs is you don't get that type safety, you don't get compiler or linter checking. It's so easy to make mistakes. And so what we normally do as developers is we build layers of abstraction. So we will take this and we will define some DTOs, and we will write code to convert this to a DTO. And we will write service code to wrap all these different services up. And so we'll build these layers of abstraction. We have to manage these, maintain these. And you think about it, if you're a SaaS company with an API, you've got 1,000 customers, they're all building 1,000 layers of abstraction. And it's kind of not fun. So really the best layer of abstraction you can get is a full SDK that mimics your entire API. Every single endpoint you've got in your API is a service that someone can use. Every single object that goes to API or comes back is an object that someone's going to want to handle. So if you were to create an entire SDK across your API, that's the best layer of abstraction. And a lot of APIs will have some form of API specification. So for example, there's a thing called OpenAPI, not to be confused with OpenAI. They do ChatGPT. OpenAPI, that's a spec for APIs. And so in your OpenAPI spec, you can define the endpoints that your API has. So for example, here's a llama endpoint. So this would be, my API /llama. I pass a llama ID. The llama ID is an integer that goes in. My response, if it's successful, if I get 200 response, it's this llama thing. This llama thing has properties like name and age, color, rating, ID, and here's an example of what it might look like. So you can define against an API specification. And what's really cool is a lot of API tools will generate this for you. Use Fast API, for example, and it automatically spits out the specifications. So a lot of API tools spit these specifications. So this kind of tells me how my API works. And so I can take this, add in a little bit of liblab magic, and I can get a full SDK in the programming language of my choice that I can then use to write code against my API. And I don't have to rely on formatting JSON to pass to objects, handling the JSON that comes back, things like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like for me, it's the boring part, having to basically replicate my API again just to be able to use it in my code. No, what I want to do is the business logic I'm going to do with that API. So if I can skip that, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what you are an engineer, you are building a product, you don't want to have to write boilerplate code. We look about the rise of generative AI in coding. A lot of it is handling boilerplate code. You're adding the cool stuff, the AI does the boilerplate code. It's kind of the same here. We don't use AI for this because way too many problems. That's a topic for another day. But we will generate that boilerplate code for you. And so the way it works is we have a configuration file. And in this file, you can say what programming languages you're interested in, how you want authentication to be handled, and then we've got a whole lot of customizations. So you can kind of tune how the SDK comes out. And then once you have your configuration file, let me just go into my folder. I've got my spec file. I've output to file spec.json. That's this file here. This is a YAML version because it's easier to read. I've got all my languages here. I've got this configuration file, and I literally run liblab build. It'll also go off. It'll validate my spec. If I've got any issues, I just need to log in. I'm running this in a container, so it logs me out when I rebuild the container. There we go. So it runs some validations. My spec is currently perfect, so nothing to validate, but we'll check for anything missing. If your spec refers to an object that doesn't exist, stuff like that. And then we go off and we take your API spec and we will spit out an SDK. So just give this a few seconds to build. I'm just building TypeScript and Python at the moment, but we support Java, and we're in beta for C# and Go at the moment. So that's it, done. I've got an SDK. What was that? 20 seconds for an SDK. And so I'm going to look at the Python one, because because I'm obviously doing this demo in Python. Let's just refresh that, because there should be TypeScript hiding in here as well somewhere. I need to just refresh my dev container. It's not Visual Studio Code is not picking it up. But here's my Python one. So here's my SDK. It's all built around, where is it? So I have this SDK class. So it creates me a llama store class. I can configure the naming of this. I get documentation inside here that's generated from my API spec. So when I put things in the API spec, they appear as documentation. Create one. I can pass in an access token. So in my spec, I've got using bearer auth. So I need an access token. I can pass it in when I create it, and that will automatically authenticate me. I can repoint to a new URL if I've got different environments, update my access token if I need to, all that kind of stuff. And then this exposes services. So I have like a llama service. And this has got the various different methods to do the things with my llama service. So I can get llamas, set llamas, delete llamas, things like that. And then what we do with all this is we adjust the naming to suit the programming language in question. So in my spec, I've got, if I look at llama, for example, I've got this thing called get llama by ID. This is already in snake case. So in Python, I would have get _ llama _ by _ ID. But in TypeScript, this would be get llama by ID in camel case. So we kind of do this adjustment to it to kind of make it very nice to the language. Because if you use a TypeScript SDK, you want it to look like TypeScript. Yeah. Python SDK wants it to look like Python. So we kind of do all this adjustment to make it look and run as close to native language as possible. And then inside here, we handle all the things and we give back the objects. So in my llama object, for example, here's my llama object. All the documentation of the object comes from my API spec. And this is my object with all the fields on there. So I can kind of pass these around. And so I'm just going to run a little script to install this Python SDK. Just build it.
While you do that, there is a Jairo saying amazing, which I agree with Jairo. It's pretty amazing too.
Oh, and, yeah. It's magic, basically. It is magic.
It is. He also has a question. This generator works a lot of public methods or for API REST, GraphQL, JavaScript libraries.
So at the moment, we support REST using OpenAPI and Postman collections. So we are looking to try to expand
Postman collection too.
Yeah, we support Postman collections. So if you have an API that doesn't have a spec, you can build that using Postman, save a collection, and then you can run this against the Postman collection.
That's great.
It's quite nice as well, especially if you've got a huge API and you only care about a little part of it. You can just build a Postman collection with the bit you care about and spit out an SDK. And then, so if I just actually go to my SDK code here, for example, this is the same kind of code we had before, but using the SDK. So before we had to create a user, I had to define my URL, strings, here's some JSON, I get JSON back. But with my SDK, I create my llama store, I define my object, I've got that type safety, and then I can call, register user. So I've got the type safety, I've got the IntelliSense here. You see I've got documentation popping up when I hover over. When I get my autocomplete, all that. If I want to see what my llama store user can do, I can get user, register user. Yeah, you don't get this with an API. This is one thing. One thing I hate about things like REST is you have to read the documentation. You have to read it and you have to try it. And if you're relying on documentation that's not auto-generated, it could be wrong. And so you try it and it doesn't work, and then you have to fix something and then it doesn't work. Whereas with an SDK, you've got the autocomplete, you've got this lovely developer experience that it kind of helps you do it. And if you're working with a public API that's well documented, that can be easy to read the docs, and you maybe think, well, maybe I don't need an SDK. But when you do stuff internally, the documentation comes from a BA who sends you a Word document or something. It can be a real struggle. So generating SDK is kind of the nice thing to do. And as you saw, it took like 20 seconds to generate. And what's really cool is you can put this in your CI/CD pipeline. So
oh yeah, you update the API and voila, the SDK is updated right away. Oh, I
So
like that.
I got
And
an action
I
here.
can't remember.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say I can't remember the tool that I used to try to do that a couple of years ago, but the code that was generated didn't have the comments like you have right now, and it was not like it was like, oh yeah, I had something working. But if it was a language that I'm not familiar with, it was a little bit hard to like follow up the code and really understand like everything that was happening. So now I see like you had like code, you have comments inside the code that really explain you like, hey, what's happening there. So good job on that. And sorry I cut you, but I was like, I needed to say that because I tried another product a while ago and it was not doing that well.
Well, before I talk about because the CI/CD stuff, then we even get a README. You know what? We even create a README for you.
No.
So we take your API spec, we get all the details there. So you get a README. What comes out basically is a folder that you can just drop into GitHub, and you get a README with installation, authentication, all the services there, sample usage, all your methods. So obviously this depends on what you put in your API spec here. We cannot magically create documentation out of nothing. I know there are AI tools that might be able to do this, but they could be wrong. You don't know what's coming out. Whereas we take what's in your spec and we spit out all the documentation for you. We even can generate SDK documentation as well. So it's like hosted SDK documentation.
Yeah, I saw in your spec you had like you had a value about like generate docs or something. So that was about that.
Yeah, I turned it off just because it takes a bit of time to generate that, so we don't want to be sitting here waiting. But yeah, we generate full documentation as well. So it's online documentation. You choose your programming language. You get like a lovely browser to see that. So you get it in the README, and then you get it in the browser as well. Because an SDK is only good if people know how to use it.
Yeah.
So if we can kind of take your specs and then spit you out these READMEs,
I agree.
I agree. All there.
Docs should never be like an afterthought. So that's amazing. And Ayaro had a second question. I think you touched base about it. The SDK has the possibility to create in Golang. I think you said it was in beta.
Yeah,
right now, or it's coming up.
Yeah. So we can do it now. I mean, if I want to do Go, I would just
that's amazing because Jairo worked with me. We're a Go shop, and he's working on API right now. So I think the question is coming from like, yeah, we could use that now if it's supporting Go.
Hey, yeah, I mean, you want to use it now, go for it. So if I just go back to my Llama store, I mean, I literally just added to my config file. I just put it in there, put Go in there, kick off a build, and then that will spit out a Go one. I'll have a browse that in a second. But yeah, while that's building, I did want to touch on the CI/CD stuff. So I've got an action here. If my spec file changes or my config file changes, it'll go off and rebuild my SDK, which is great. But also we can generate a PR. So if I run our liblab PR command, that will actually go to a GitHub repo, which is defined in my config file. So in here, I've got that my TypeScript SDK is in Llama SDK TypeScript, Python's here. That will raise that pull request for me. So I can specify my GitHub org. And that, in fact, you know what? Let me just go back here. github.com/liblabber/llama store SDK Python pull request. This is what a pull request looks like. So it'll go here and it raises the pull request for me. Doesn't automatically push it in because we want people to check it. But yeah, it will raise a pull request with all my stuff here. And if I approve it, I can merge it. This one I've improved the documentation inside my API spec. So this is great. You can use it to check for breaking changes, which may happen if you've updated your spec. That's there.
Oh, that's amazing. And I'm not the only one who think that. Jairo is like, oh man, and I see that. I read that as like, that's amazing. And hey, Jean-François. Jean-François was asking, like, can a non-developer be in the listening to the live stream? Can be here? I'm like, yes. Even UX people like you, GF, can be. It's the DevRel show. It's for everybody who loves tech. So you're good. You can be here.
This is for everyone. Yeah.
We talked about Lego for like 20 minutes, so it's really for anyone.
So this is the Go SDK that's been created. Now I don't know Go at all, so But yeah, so we have our Llama store in here, which has got the Llama endpoints. So yeah, we're working on this at the moment. Everything's not fully polished. If you want to have a play with it,
That's fine. That's fine.
So yeah, we can certainly get access to anyone who wants to have a play with it. But yeah, we've got our Llama objects on here. So yeah, we do go. So yeah, that's our SDK
amazing.
generation. Yeah, so we're currently in beta at the moment. Yeah, we did sign a load of folks up at a conference recently. So if you're interested in this, if you want to actually give this a go, give our Go one a go, just head to liblab.com, click join beta. That'll just take you to a form to fill in. If you actually send us your spec, we will even generate an SDK for you up front, and then arrange a time with you. But if not, you can also join our Discord. Reach out on our Discord to me. And yeah, I'll get you access to it. So, you can kind of try it out.
That's pretty amazing. Thanks for doing a really great product. I'm a little bit sad that I don't have like a use for it right now, like as a developer advocate. But it seems like my team, like the engineers working at KubeFirst, could use it. And Jairo has one last question, which I asked the same question before the show, and the most important question: how can we get a cat in VS Code like you? It's open source, is out there. You can go on github.com, Tony Baloney, VS Code -pet. And for those of you that are wondering, yeah, it's a VS Code plugin. I just love that. And if I remember, I think he built that. He's a Microsoft employee, or used to be. Yeah, okay. Yes. I think he built the same thing for Visual Studio like a couple of years ago, and now he made it for Visual Studio Code. Yeah, it's definitely missing in my day because I don't have enough cat. Like I have a cat painting. I have 2 live cats here. I need one more in my in my Visual Studio Code. So that's amazing. So yeah, thanks for the demo. Great project, great product. Great demo, super useful. This is what I like about that part of the show. It's a product that I didn't know. Now it's in my tool belt. Personally, like if I'm being like egoistic, it's like, yeah, okay, it's good for me, but like hopefully it's good for other people. And as we see people that are excited about it, so try it at home. Ask for the beta. Jim's going to be nice. Just say you watch the show and he's going to give you beta access. And
no, I do want to just touch on pricing if I can. Do you want to touch on pricing?
Please.
So we have the way we're pricing this is the basic functionality is free. So you want to generate SDKs, we want that to be free. We want everyone to generate SDKs. Obviously, and for enterprise folks, we will build you. Yeah, it's kind of we'll give you the basics for free, and then we'll charge you depending on what you need later on. So for enterprise folks, yes, we will build a whole big payment structure for you depending on what you need. But the basic product without support is free. So I want to mention that. But what I do want to mention is we have an open source tier. So if you run an open source project and you want SDK generation, we'll basically give you the full product with support. So obviously, depending on the level of support we'll give you depends on the size of your open source project. If it's just you in your basement and you want us to build things for you, it's like, well, come on. But if you're a big open source project, we will actually will generate the SDKs for you, and kind of, we can kind of maintain and support you. So if you run an open source project and you want SDK generation, we will kind of give you that top tier service, because this is how we want to give back to the open source community. We can't pay every single open source developer for the open source projects that we build upon. That's not sustainable. So one of the ways we want to give back to open source is if you have an open source project with an API, we will help you with your SDKs. We want to kind of give you that SDK thing for free. So yeah, anyone watching who runs an open source project, if you want us to help with your SDK generation, we'd absolutely love to do that.
That's awesome. Amazing. So just before we end that show, I want to thank our sponsor, which happened to be my employer that let me do that show during my working hours. So thanks for them, KubeFirst. We do free GitOps magics. So if you want to know what that is, go on kubefirst.io. If you're using Kubernetes, it's the way to go to have like a full production ready management cluster in Kubernetes in minutes instead of like weeks. So go try that. And on that note, Jim, any last words for the people listening right now, the people that will watch the recording?
I would say go onto liblab.com, sign up for our beta so you can play with our SDK generation. Yep, thanks for dropping the link down there. And I'm all over the internet, Jim Bennett. So please, if you want to get in touch, got any questions, Jim Bennett on Twitter. Yeah, all my link tree's there. Thank you. That's got all my links. So I'm always happy to geek out on tech. So please reach out with any questions. Otherwise, I mean, thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
geeking out on tech and geeking out on Lego.
Exactly. That was a great show. Thanks for being my guest. Thanks for sharing your expertise, sharing about your project, sharing about your experience in DevRel and Lego. So that was real nice to finally have the time to meet you. And thanks everybody who watched us live. If you watch the recording, thanks to you also. And if you are a developer advocate, technical evangelist, whatever your title, if you are doing DevRel that is close to a developer advocate and you want to be on the show, let me know. I'm fully booked until beginning of April in terms of guests, so things are going well. But there are still a couple of months left in 2024, so happy to have people. And actually, no matter your experience, no matter how long you've been doing that, no matter where you live, I'm just happy. It's just a laid-back show. We talk about DevRel. You demo cool technical stuff that you want to share with people, and we're having fun. As you can see today, it's really laid back. So thanks again, Jim. Thanks, everyone. And see you in 2 weeks, because, yes, I was crazy enough to book DevRel show in between Christmas and New Year. So that's going to be an exciting show also. So thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone.